It's Brian. And finally, we have another contest entry. This one is going to be for Dave, the pickup artist. On his channel, he asked us to pick 5 of our craziest psych or garage rock albums to respond to his contest. And as usual, you need to be a subscriber. And I forget what the prize is, but that's okay. I'm going to go through 5 of 5 psych records that I've chosen from my collection. And just to satisfy my own curiosity, I decided to look up a definition of psychedelic music because although I think I know what it is, but it turned out I was a bit surprised. I'd assumed that psychedelic music, the defining characteristic would be the sound. But as it turns out, that's not the case, at least according to Wikipedia. And I'll just read that definition from Wikipedia, which may not be the most authoritative site with respect to music, but it says that psychedelic rock is rock music that is inspired, influenced, or representative of psychedelic culture, which is centered on perception-altering hallucinogenic drugs. The music is intended to replicate and enhance the mind-altering experiences of psychedelic drugs, most notably LSD. I find that interesting. I had no idea. The last sentence is kind of interesting. Many psychedelic groups differ in style, and the label is often applied spuriously. So in other words, who knows what psychedelic music actually is? And as usual, there's often overlap between types of music. Categories sort of blend together, and it might not be true. You know, somebody might argue the merits of one over the other. In any case, I've chosen 5 things, and I'll start with a really great band from Austin, Texas, called, if I can get it out of the sea, called the Black Angels. The Black Angels from Austin, Texas, I think they formed in 2004. This is the first record from them in 2006. Amazing cover. I guess the cover looks psychedelic. By the way, Black Angels, the name is taken from the Velvet Underground's Black Angels Death Song. So you could argue that the Velvet Underground is a psychedelic band, and so they chose their name from that band. You know, when I think of psychedelic music, I often think of the late 60s. And so there's some lyrical content in here that reflects that time period. So there's, the first Vietnamese War, Young Dead Men. There's actually an untitled track at the end, which is a cover of Jimmy Cliff's song Vietnam. So it all ties in with what you could argue is the origins of this kind of music. So this is split over 2 LPs. Really interesting. I think they're really incredible. They have, of course, several other records, which are all worth getting, but a really, really great band. And sounds, to my ears, psychedelic. The second is another this band that starts with the word black. Black Rebel Motorcycle Club from San Francisco. This is their 8th record from 2018. Again, kind of, you could argue, a mixture of styles. This band sometimes called alternative, indie, and psychedelic. So kind of hitting all those 3 markers. I have the rest of their records or albums on CD. This is the only one I have on vinyl at the moment. But I think they're an interesting group. I like what they've done. Okay, this was called, I don't think I mentioned, the album here is called Wrong Creatures. So, very interesting band. The third item I'm going to choose is a band that originated in 1984. They put an EP out in 1985, but the first full-length record came out in 1987. This is the Dukes of Stratosphere. The record is called Sonic Sunspot. So Stratosphere is spelled quite differently in Sonic Sunspot. They have P's at the beginning. This is an offshoot of XTC. I think the band hoped that there wouldn't be a connection with the XTC. It would just be a new band, but eventually that became known, or they let it be known. And so the interesting thing for me is that this record outsold some of the records that were out by XTC at the time. So the Big Express and Skylarking didn't do as well as this one did. This was an obvious attempt to replicate the sound of a 1960s psych band. So Andy Partridge, Dave Gregory, Colin Moulding, etc. They took different names. We have Sir John Johns, The Red Curtain, Lord Cornelius Plum, and E.I.E.I. Owen. And the record, this is the original Canadian I think it's Canadian. And it's on colored vinyl. It might be hard to see that here, but it's sort of a plum colored record. It's hard to see that, but I think this is really fantastic. I like the previous EP as well. 25 O'Clock I think is really great. There's so many good songs in here, and they have out psych bands from the time. They're just such a perfect representation. You're a Good Man, Albert Brown is a song you might know, or Vanishing Girl, great songs. Maybe better than XTC. It's hard to say. For the next one, I chose a Canadian band from Montreal. This is their last record from 2021. It's called, from the band called the Beren Lakes. This record's called The Beren Lakes Are the Last of the Great Thunderstorm Warnings. This is a husband and wife team, primarily. They do have other musicians working with them. And again, I think you would say this is psych, indie, alternative, and possibly even shoegaze. This is spread over two records. The last track on side 2 takes up the entire side. It starts sort of a more traditional song and kind of morphs into a kind of drone-ish piece. Lyrics handwritten by one of the members. So I think this is really interesting. I think all their records are really interesting and worth getting. Really interesting music out of Montreal. I think their first record came out in 2003 or so. For the last, I thought I would choose a more classic psych record. I read somewhere someone referred to this as the only genuine psych record from the Grateful Dead. This is Anthem of the Sun. So this is this was their second record from 1968. Those who know the Grateful Dead better than I do will know already that there was a different release, or different mix, I guess, or different version released in 1972. But this one, according to the label, this is the Rhino Records 2011 version, and it says the original mix for the first time in 4 decades from Rhino Records. So apparently, in the last 40 years, this has not been on vinyl. I know that I think a few years ago they released, maybe it was a CD of both versions. I'm not sure. That's the back. And there's the label. I'm not sure if these are representative of the original labels from the original record. I'm not actually sure. I'm not really an expert on the Grateful Dead. I don't know. Some people know everything about the band. I don't know everything about the band. But this one I really like. I think it's good. So that is 5 psych rock albums for Dave the Pickup Artist. And I think I said at the beginning, as usual, you have to be a subscriber to enter this contest and make a video, let I know you've made the video. And that's it for me for today. Have a good weekend.